Welcome to Season 2 of the Golden Horseshoe Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Koku Nunasawa. I'm a mortgage agent with Synergy Mortgage Group, and I'm someone who's spent years in various sides of the real estate transaction, previously as both a real estate agent as well as an investor. In this podcast, we share local market insights, future outlooks, and proven strategies all around different niches of the real estate market. And we also get an inside look into the journey of top real estate agents, how they build their businesses, the lessons they've learned along the way, and just real insight into how the world of real estate works from behind the scenes. I hope you enjoy. All right, so we have Larry Paletta here. Larry is a realtor in the Hamilton and surrounding areas, and he's with Remax Escarpment. Larry, for those sort of listening for the first time, getting to know you, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Larry Paletta, Remax Escarpment, Hamilton, Burlington, surrounding area. I've been at this almost 20 years now. Have a meat packing construction background. Construction has helped me in terms of guiding clients and inspections and things like that, just to kind of offer what I have. I don't know, just been kind of, going at it all these years. I became a realtor when I was like in my mid 30s. So it was something where I just took a couple courses and took off like that. So I lived around Canada and in the States for a while, but been back in Canada since '82. So no, it's been a good journey, and helping people, helping them. I had a lot of humor to my what do you call it? My thing where I just get into there. Humor's a nice icebreaker when you're showing, when you don't really know the people. So no, it's been a good journey, and I'm an introverted outrovert, if you can.
Perfect. Yeah, so let's dive into your story. Yeah, so you mentioned your family was both in the meat business, but also in construction. And actually, it's interesting you mentioned that you got started at a very young age, because real estate is, in a way, you're helping people with their largest asset with like this big financial decision. I'm guessing it couldn't have been easy, or when you were starting, there must have been some nerves there. Like, is someone going to trust me? I'm just getting started here. I don't have a whole lot of life experience to work with.
Yes.
What was that like getting started, and what was that decision-making process like prior to getting started? What prompted you to get into the business?
My in-laws, who are in the masonry bricklaying business, decided, just like many people are, when they're trim carpenters or framers, they decided to, hey, let's start building, and they branched into the building business. And my mother-in-law she goes, Larry, I'll pay for your first course if you want to. Right now, mind you, circa back to 1992, back when we had to go to Mohawk College for 2 and 3 weeks. I did do phase 1 and phase 2 back in '92, but I couldn't get 3 weeks off to take phase 3. So I should have had my license in the early '90s. So I ended up getting my license in about 2006, and I was on their new home site, and that was a nice way in Stoney Creek to kind of pick up some buyers, even if they couldn't afford 350, 400. Which, by the way, could you imagine struggling to sell a 2,800 square foot house for $380,000? But wow. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, but that was a nice way to pick things up and to get and to start your database. You know what I mean. One thing that you did say about starting off, I do remember my first listing appointment. I think it was like 10 or 14 days into it, and the client goes, "Well, you're the professional. What do you think?" And it's just like, I just got my license like 2 weeks ago, but they're looking at you like you're the professional. So you have to speak confidently. You have to just try to divert that attention, and have some comparables with you, have some sort of an answer, because as soon as you're slapped with that license,
yeah,
you're a professional.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because I think anytime you're young, inexperienced, and you're starting out, I think at least I'm looking back to my career when I was starting out in running my own business. There's definitely a lot of fears that I felt, but I don't know if my clients were thinking the exact same way. I'm sure some people were like, who is this guy? Like, I'm not going to work with him because he's super inexperienced. But the people who ended up working with me decided that despite my experience, despite being young, they saw something else. They saw maybe a person who was a little bit more eager, was a bit more responsive, like who didn't know everything but was willing to find out, willing to dig deep, ask the questions, and try to figure out the answers for them, right? So even if I didn't know the answer, on some level, they had enough confidence in me that I would figure it out. I would talk to the other experienced people. I would try to get that information for them, right? But I will say it's interesting looking back, even when I started. Yeah, it's the fears are very real when you're young in any kind of self-employed profession, right?
Well, they are. I mean, I was making notes. I mean, there's stuff that I did back then that I don't even do now, right? Now, it's difference between cold calling and, staying on top of people all the time, like the database I got from my new home open houses and stuff like that, right? And then, now we're driving so far, you're driving far distances to get business. And now with DocuSign and all this stuff, you can be a little bit more centered around, maybe Oakville, Brantford, Hamilton, Grimsby, Beamsville, as opposed to, driving to Dunnville. I driving to Fort Erie to get the business, right?
Yeah.
When you develop that business, then when you get it, then you can be a little bit more like this. And then maybe I'll call an agent in Fort Erie. I said, listen, take my client, 25% referral, and then let's go, right? But no, there's stuff that I did a long time ago, which maybe I should be doing all the time, but you're just, you're desperate, you know what I mean? And you're making that call. I mean, January 1st, doesn't matter what you make, in people's minds, January 1st, you start at zero, and that's my game, that's your game, that's insurance game, that's that's a commission game.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point, right? Because the things you did back then, you may not necessarily do now, but I think that's also normal because like you just had more time. You just had more energy to invest into each and every transaction simply because you had so few of them probably right at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And I think on some level, that's a lesson to anyone listening who is getting started in a business. Don't assume that you're always behind the ball because you're new. Sometimes your enthusiasm and just the fact you have time to put like extra into a particular client, a particular transaction, like that's your advantage, right? It's not always that you're at a disadvantage just because you're getting started.
Yeah, there was something you said there about I've had it in the past where some people might have used me or didn't use me because if you use a big team, you're saying, well, they're thinking, well, I'm never going to see that guy. Maybe I'll go for the younger, eager, chipper guy, right? And then he might fight for me more, right? And they can also maybe manipulate you a little bit more, right? So there is that difference of people's thinking, and that's something that if I would have stayed another year at university, I would have had a psych history minor. But the psychology courses that I took have really helped me because and now, I mean, we'll talk about it at the end with my coaching program, but I mean, I find a lot of this stuff is you know what they say, it's like 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, all that stuff. Especially after COVID, there's a lot of mindset anxiety that is all non-business real estate related that affects people every day, right?
No, absolutely. It is interesting to hear that you studied sort of psychology. Some of the best real estate agents that I know either studied it or whether it was formally or informally, right? I know some people who never really took a course on it or like a university course on it, but they just self-studied and really tried to understand like personality types, how their own personality worked, as well as like how to understand others. And
Yeah.
especially in this business where you're dealing with people, you're helping them navigate their emotions, and their reactions are going to be different based on who they are, the life they've lived. Being more aware of different personalities and how they, how do they react under stress? How do they like react when different things happen, right?
That's right. No, and listen, and we haven't. I've gone to real estate conferences for years, and I don't know if you've had it before, but there's that disc profiling. There's what color are you? Are you type A gold? Are you an environmentalist kind of green? Are you a blue crier? You know what I mean? And some of this stuff. And I just went to a conference yesterday. I mean, sometimes we need to back off on our own personality, whether we are abrasive or too kind or something. You have to mold yourself a little bit towards what is being presented in front of you. Now, the more successful you are, you can choose not to work with those people,
Sure.
right? But no, definitely the personality traits. Okay, all right. Well, these guys are millennial. You know what they look for. This guy's really detailed oriented.
The engineer versus the person who wears their heart on their sleeve, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's and then if you're a team, or if you get established, or if you hook up with someone to help you to kind of spread the wealth around, then that always helps too. I had a small team for about 12 years, and I just kind of recommend that if you do team up with someone, try to make them a little bit opposite than you, right? This one here, she was female, so men are more math and women are more English. You know what I mean? I find that if I text people back, it's like 6 words, whereas she's like 3 paragraphs, right? So by the end of it, I was texting maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and she was bringing hers down to maybe a paragraph and a half. So just try to have someone that's a little bit more opposite. Because
Well, let's talk a bit about that. So what was that partnership like? What made you, I guess, when did you get into that in your career? Like how many years in? What was the thought process behind it, and sort of what were the pros and cons of it?
It was probably about 3-4 years into my career,
Okay.
and she had joined the brokerage, and she had some power of sales contacts.
Okay.
Right. This was back when 08, 09, when that little hiccup. Well, it was a hiccup in Canada. It was that big disaster, right?
Yes.
So she had some smaller. I'm not talking like TD Bank or anything like that. Just some smaller credit unions that she had a contact with, and then we started. She had an office at the office, and then I was always in and out, and then we're kind of talking, and it's just like, well, I don't think now, mind you, back in 08, 09, sold. I was used to sell a house on Sanford Avenue North for $48,000. So you can imagine, sending this girl down there at 7 at night to Sanford Avenue North. So I said, listen, why don't we just let me help you here? Just more for safety, right? And there's tons of paperwork with power of sales. So that's how it kind of morphed into like, just kind of working together. Like I said, math, English, maybe she's more paperwork. You could be the fisherman. I always like to use the term, who's the fisherman? Like when people join big teams, they can't get leads by themselves, or they don't know how to do it. So they go to the team, they give them 50 leads or 20 leads, and then they go try and clean it up, right? And you could play off each other. I could be more the bulldog. I could be the tough one. She could be the nice one, good cop, bad cop. She can cry. I can be more stern. So like I said, that opposite thing, and then that developed. Then we got an office upstairs, and then we just took it from there, and then it just branched out. And then the one thing about that is you need to work out. Obviously, everything comes down to money. So it's just like whenever you have a team or a partnership, it's like, okay, if you do this, you get 75%, and if I help, blah blah blah. It's almost like you go on vacation. You gotta give responsibilities to another agent. What are you going to pay them to cover you?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because sometimes this line of work can be quite isolated, right? Because you're working with a lot of people, you have a lot of connections, but they don't really understand the stressors you're under, right? They don't realize that their 1 week of stress during a conditional period is your every week as you're helping one client, the next client, the next client. And yeah, like you mentioned, even to be able to take a vacation because you have someone who can cover for you, that you trust, who understands, your client base, how you work, and that ability to step back and then, not lose out on business just to take a vacation, right?
Exactly. And listen, I mean, I know this is a podcast, but I'm in my office, you're in your office. I mean, they say it's a people business, but it can also be a very lonely business. You know what I mean? Like we're out on our own, we're doing our stuff, whether you're solo or even on a team. I mean, it's nice to bounce ideas off someone, and that's kind of the one thing that I miss is just like, you always have real estate in your head, on your bean, and, bounce things off. Right. So that's one of the pros and the cons is where, you're always in the game when you're in a team and things like that. And when you're on your own, you just got to make sure you don't slip into doing nothing or, sleeping until 10.
Absolutely. Like I found one of the things that really held me, even to this day, holds me accountable is that I have just one employee who works with me. And it's like, it's almost easier to push myself to do what I need to do to like make sure our business is sound so that I can make my payroll, so that I can take care of my clients.
It's almost accountability almost.
Yes,
in a way, right?
That's
like,
exactly it.
Yeah, people show up to the office and mind you, I mean, I'll go back because this business it's totally changed from what I was from, and especially sleeping wise, being in the meat business and being in the construction business, I'd be up sometimes out of my house by maybe 6:15, right? And now then you start driving your kids to school, so I'd be like driving the kid to school for 8:00 because my office is down the street. Now I'm driving my wife to work, and I'm in, depending on the day. Now I've gone from like leaving my house at 6 to like getting to work at 9.
Yeah.
Right. But and then the whole wardrobe change. I go from sweaters and jeans and track pants to like at least, well, since COVID, I used to dress up every day. Now it's just like maybe jeans and a dressy shirt or something like that. I mean, clothes have changed a lot in every business since COVID. But I just found that was a big thing. I mean, like it's 8:00 and I haven't done anything yet, right? So that was a bit transition. But then again, we are working. I can work at 11:00 at night as opposed to a 7 till 5 job.
That's right. Yeah, I think that is, from my understanding, it's one of the tough parts because negotiations happen when your clients are available, right? So it's common for the back and forth to happen in the evening or a weekend and
after work.
Exactly. So that.
But then again, like, I mean, I was checking my stats, and like when I had a team, we do like 50 to 55 deals, leases or whatever. But that was like 2 people. But but like now you can, and then back then, in the 08, 09, like the average end, as we say, the commission end in Hamilton was about $4,500.
Okay.
So I had to bust my ass to make $100,000.
Yes.
Back then, you know. Now all of a sudden Hamilton woke up in about 2014 and 2017 and right now, whereas almost on that maybe right now we're down a little bit, but almost every house in Stoney Creek, Hamilton Mountain, 2-story, 2,000 square feet is $1 million on average.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, right now maybe it's sunk down to 890, 930, whatever. But so you can imagine commissions on $1 million house at 2.5%. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot different than selling a house for $220,000.
Yeah. How has competition evolved over the years? So when, like you were describing, when real estate commissions were around that 4,000 or 5,000 range, would you say it was any easier to get business back then than it is now? Or like, were there less realtors? Was there less like of a challenge of like, say, the Toronto realtor listing a property in Hamilton versus like now you often see, like realtors will go all over the place, right? So sometimes if they have a relationship with the person, even if it's an area out of their zone,
Right.
they may still decide to list in that new city, right?
Yeah. I think the fact that Hamilton has gone from like, 300,000 to $1 million, the people in Toronto are referring less, and they're, as we said back in the 80s, they're making it's worth the drive to Acton now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I had a house. I had a friend's house in Niagara Falls I was selling, and it was in that COVID area where you're getting tons of showings, and I had people from Richmond Hill, Markham. I saw their cards. So when things get tight, for sure, they start driving more. But no, when I joined, I mean, Hamilton, Burlington, we got about 3,100 agents. Toronto has gone from, at least when I started, probably something in the 35,000 or so. Now they're up to over 70,000 agents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think 75% do one deal or less.
Listen, I'm very aware of that because even with this podcast, the way that I get guests on the podcast is that I have to reach out to real estate agents to simply invite them, right? To ask if they want to be on the podcast. I have to be so intentional about who I invite. I can't just go out and, email every realtor out there because
they're part-time.
On average, half of them aren't doing a deal. And then the next 30%, I think it's like one deal to, you need to do a certain amount of business to be able to credibly like share your expertise and really like share some insight that is of value, right? So
For sure. But the one thing that I forgot to mention is the fact that the money has gone up because the house prices has gone up. You can do 10 deals right now and make $150,000-$200,000, right? So the fact is that I think last year I did 20, and it's like, well, it's still a lot of time. I mean, you still have a lot of downtime. 52 weeks in a year, you did 20 deals.
Yes.
So I find myself in here like and then, but that's why when the business comes to you, it's real estate is a time sensitive business. Like we don't care about Easter or Christmas. December 25th is the date on the offer. You know what I mean? Conditions have got to be due. So the thing is when you do have a lot of downtime because you're only doing whatever 15, 20 deals a year. Like I said, the 15, 20 divided by 52 weeks, you know what I mean? That's still a lot of time. But it's just one of those things where it's the business is out there, but when it comes to you, you deal with it. Whether it's you're working hard whether you're working hard for 2 days or so, or for that 1 week to get conditions done, home inspection, financing, working till 11:30, or going back and forth one night with this other agent. So when you get it, right? And then you 100%. Work with it because the next 2-3 weeks you might not be doing anything.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I do find it interesting, and maybe this is more along the lines of your coaching business, which is I find it curious how I've talked to agents, within the GTA, right? Hamilton, Niagara, and then there's a stark contrast. For example, I know a few agents in some cities that are of a lower price, and the ones that come to mind are like smaller towns. I know a couple even in like Edmonton, right, in Alberta, where
Welland.
Yeah, Welland. Like it's interesting how I will talk to. The point I'm trying to make is the contrast, especially for example, an agent in Toronto, like Toronto core, right, city of Toronto, where literally every home is like, other than condos, if you're dealing with houses, it's like 1.5, 2 million, right? Yeah. In their mind, to do 10 deals is like a really good year, right? And then I talk to someone from a smaller, lower price city, and they're like, yeah, I need to do like 20 to 30 deals to like survive. Like one particular agent in Arizona, he was doing like 100 ends. But he was like, I'm selling some pieces of land where the commission's like $500, right? So But I'm like, the work is the same on some level. Like the conversation's the same, the client's emotions are the same, finding clients is the same, servicing them, filling out the paperwork. It's just that you have this expectation like, look, I just need to do more because like I need to do more. I don't have a choice in this. Versus maybe like what you've described, if the commission is 20 grand a deal, you can take a little bit of a break and you don't necessarily need to, I don't know if it's push yourself or I don't know what it is, but I don't know if
It's
it's
a
a
different
mental
mindset.
block, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different mindset for sure. The other one that is there, and some people say, well, when things are low, maybe do a little more rentals, a little bit more leases,
Yeah.
and that paperwork is you'd rather buy
Double.
a house. Oh, it is double because and you're only making what, maybe $1,000, $1,500, right? But you got to do tenant and back checks and you're driving around showing rentals, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that when things are slow, hey, that 1,000 here, 1,000 there will pay the bills. But if you're established and you don't need it, you can just say, nah, I don't. I will lease the properties that my clients own.
Mm.
I rarely will go out and find a lease for somebody unless there's some personal contact there, right? So because it's a lot of work. And listen, I went to Waterdown last year to try to help a guy find a rental, and they want like a credit score of over 750.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, some of these people can't buy because their credit score is bad, right? So, it's picky out there. So you really have to watch where you're spending your time in business.
No, 100%, 100%. Yeah, no, I guess, yeah, the leasing side, it is interesting though. I had a conversation with an agent the other day who I think he was part of a team where they were considering opening up a property management part of their business.
Yep.
And
Well, you
yeah,
need the volume. You need the volume there,
yeah,
right? And if someone wants to do that, if like commercial stuff, commercial leasing, I'm like, ugh, like I don't want to get into it. It's just that we're not equipped for it, right? And plus the commercial guys don't like the residential guys.
sure, sure.
You know what I mean? So there's always little things in our business, but there's so many of us, and there is a lot of business out there. Like if you can imagine, if I had like 4 hot clients right now, I mean, I wouldn't have any time for anything else because there's only so many hours between 6 and 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like to show people, right? And it's just like, can you get them during the day? So if you have things going on, like it can get pretty busy, but that's only 4 people,
yeah.
and there's hundreds of thousands of people in this world, right? I mean, billions, but in our area. So there's a lot of business out there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, I think especially going back to that mindset conversation, and I've talked to a few realtors recently about this, where it's like, obviously the market is not really cooperative, right? Like the last couple of years has been a tough market.
Yes.
Yet there are always some agents who they may not be having their best year ever, but they're still going to consistently do a decent amount of transactions. They're still going to keep busy. They're still like working with clients, supporting them, and like they have a business that's running despite the challenges, right? And that is something I find interesting. It's almost unhelpful to get too bogged down with the macro, like the economy slowing down, or there's a war in Iran, and like all these factors that, yes, they affect prices of homes, yes, they affect buyer seller sentiments. Those are all true, and at the same time you can still have a business that does fairly well, right? So
Yeah. Well, you got to be consistent with your stuff every day, right? I mean, you can't just grow into this, let's just call it depression or something like that. You
yes.
got to keep hitting your people. We call it the gold, like a lot of people, it's the 80-20 rule where 80% of your stuff is in your database, but more of us go after the 20% of the people that are like leads and just kind of wandering or trying to get talk to the people that and see if their sphere of influence is looking for something, right? Because you have to tap your gold, as we say, and you got to stay on top of them. You have to send them emails, get in their inbox, send them videos, stay on your social media, respond to them when they text you, right? And text them. Like I have a friend that's a client that's a Yankee fan. I've got a friend that likes this or this. Stuff happens. Just send them a text. I always got these people on the top of my mind, right? And and before you know it, you've touched them 20 times a year.
Yeah, no, I think that is the part of it, right? You mentioned how if you have 4 active clients, you can be quite busy. And at the same time, if you don't prioritize those touch points as soon as those 4 clients purchase or sell, you're not going to have that next set of 4 clients. That next that momentum needs to be like, you need to plant the seeds for that momentum while you're busy. Otherwise, you're going to go into these up and downs, right?
Well, that reminds me, I started with Roy LePage for about a year and a half, and there was this one agent that was in there, and she would be like so pissed off, right? She would get so mad and things like that. Things weren't going well, and then she would hit the phones. This is almost 20 years ago. And then back at that office, it was the old fashioned where you wrote the deals down on the board. It would say, 23 Main Street, Larry Paletta sold, or whatever. And then you would see her, she would put like 3 deals down, and then she'd be happy. And then, boom, and then she'd be mad, right? And then, then she'd work the phones again. So she was the classic roller.
Feast and famine, right?
Yeah, it's like you know what to do, but some of us rest on our laurels. Okay, get some money, book a vacation. Here we go. But this with CRMs now and automation, I mean, it is helping me out. Like I use BombBomb, and I put a little video out, and I put a little series of maybe a monthly thing, and then use your phone. Put birthdays in their phone. I mean, FinTrack is getting birthdays from everybody. So don't tell me you don't know the birthdays of your clients.
Yes.
Because that's your job. You're going to get fined if you don't hand in that birthday paperwork. Put that in your CRM. Put that in your phone. Birth of a kid. Oh, listen, James had a little kid the other day, so put that in your phone and put repeat on it. So it comes. Listen, our brains are all over the place. We're all type A, ADD anyways, right? So you listen. I need reminders more than anything because I have stuff in my phone, my CRM. I'm like so old school that I even have like a printout, like a manual one which sits in front of me. I don't like to forget anything. So we have this stuff. You got to make notes for your clients and touch them, but don't make it onerous for you. Or like it just have reminders for you. So there you go. Oh, okay. It's James's birthday today. Oh, send him a video. You know what I do, because my real estate career, like I tell you, I'm not getting up as early, so I'm staying up late. Sometimes, like I just hit one last night at like 12:01 in the morning. Happy birthday! And I'm probably going to be the first one. You know what I mean? Now, I know a lot of people that are just hanging at 9:30. Like they have to go to sleep. Totally fine. Work something in, but put it in your phone every day, 6 a.m. It's James's birthday on the on the 30th. So I have these little, just these little reminders and things like that. So you need the touch points. Oh, anniversaries of their anniversary, their house anniversary, right? So, and especially when they buy a house, I like to mail them something. Try to be the first one that physically mail something. I know can't.
Interesting. Like the first sort of package or the first.
Yeah. Okay. Send them something. Send them a magnet for the fridge. You know what I mean? I know Canada Post is another little wishy-washy thing, because I remember I mailed calendars in early December or mid-December, and then people are getting it in January. You know what I mean? So I know I delivered some about 60 or 70 beforehand. But listen, I still do calendars. I throw a Christmas card in there. Leverage your brokerage if you have something like that. Leverage the marketing department. I mean, listen, it may cost you something, but what do you want to do?
Yeah, I really like your first, be the first person to mail them. So when we start working with a client on the mortgage side, we have like a little, just like a mortgage guide that kind of goes through the process. We usually write a little handwritten note, put in like a $5 Starbucks gift card, and just as a a way to start the relationship off in a good way. And we usually find that it really helps because in the early stage, they don't really know us. They've been referred to us. We've just had a conversation. So they're just starting the process. But to receive something before they've necessarily committed to us, it just really helps. But I really like this idea of, okay, and be the first person to mail them something at their new address, because we have the new address. We know when the closing date is, so we can almost time it to be right there a few days after.
Realtors have a little bit more of an advantage because it's almost as if like see, you talk to your clients, or like let's say you're the mortgage broker for my clients. Well, you kind of talk to them, maybe Zoom them, maybe you meet them, maybe
Less of an in person, right? Nowadays.
Whereas like, not that they're in our cars anymore, but the old adage. Well, I've been driving around with them for like 2-3 months, sometimes 2-3 years off and on, right? So it's almost as if like, we dated and now we broke up, right? Where they like when they find their house. I do remember this one agent saying one of their clients called them after they bought a house to go, can we go look houses? Because it was so much fun. You know what I mean? So no, like we're seeing them. We have more of a relationship, and that's what I tell the lawyers. Like when the lawyers can't get in contact with anybody, I said, call me. I have everything. You know what I mean? But you know what? Listen, all people are different. Some people they're not nice. They're volatile. They're whatever. But I tell the lawyers, call me if you need anything. Just call me. We're like we're the Verizon, we're the Rogers to everything, right? Because we know all their numbers because we've been docu-signing with them, we've been texting them, right? Yes. So we're probably the best conduit of that whole real estate system of.
Well, I think it's just that the relationship is much closer, right? Versus on the mortgage side, and especially the lawyers really have a disadvantage because they're right at the end, right? So it's hard to really build a relationship unless you're working with the client multiple times if they're sort of doing a lot of real estate deals. But I think, I think that it's by its nature, the mortgage side tends to be more transactional. And at the same time, it's also similar to real estate where people are emotional, right? They're signing the dotted line on a large monthly payment or on a commitment. So being able to support them emotionally is still very valuable. Right, so that they can ask the questions that come up because of fear. They're at the lawyer's office, they see something, they're not sure about it, to be able to settle those concerns, right?
Yeah. But the thing with the mortgage people, because that's something that as a realtor, and this is something that I coach, and then I tell the younger ones is, like, we see it in all our videos. You got to get your people approved, right? So I call the mortgage brokers like the truth serum. Like people can talk to me, Larry, I can buy that cash. Okay, well, listen, have you talked to your mortgage guy? Like, what are you approving? Give me his number or her number. I want to know, can you afford $750, or do you have skeletons in your closet?
Yeah.
Because then now you're just driving around, and believe me, we've all done it. We've all done it, and where we've taken people in our car, and by the time you showed an offer time, and then the skeleton comes out, right? And mortgage brokers, I mean, true serum. You got to get that answer. What are you approved for? So it's all, now we have this stuff about RICO and client. You have to send them a form, make sure the client relationship, make sure they understand it. Like there's a lot of stuff in this paperless world. There's so much paper. I know it's going through digital DocuSigns and things like that, but like, wow, it's. I thought it was shrinking, but there's still more because we're under the gun with this FinTrack and the stuff like that. We're the first line of defense, and if you want to waste your time with people, go ahead, because there'll be more people that are qualified for the rest of us.
Sure, yeah, and like even I was looking just at our stats the other day. I don't have a perfect stat for this, but I'm estimating based on the amount of referrals we've received and the funded deals that we've done for the first 3 months, we're something at like a 25 to 30% lead to close ratio, which means that for every 3 referrals we receive, 2 of them are not closing. Now, some of them may close with, their own branch or something else, but there's a good number of people that come from a realtor who hopes this person can transact with them, where it's like, hey, after we review the income or the credit or the down payment situation, that like something comes up where it's like, hey, maybe they can't quite
Yeah.
qualify for what they need to qualify for,
Yeah.
right? Or sometimes their life just changes and they just decide not to buy. We've seen that happens at times as well. But yeah, it's definitely it's both a numbers game, but it's also a time management game where if you aren't diligent about working with people who can actually move forward, you're not going to have the time to work with the people who are going to move forward, right?
Mhm. And especially if they're time suckers, if they're needy people, right? Like you just again, you got to make the decision. Am I doing this? And then I don't care how you always, the fear in real estate is when you're doing nothing and you're sitting there like a puppy dog with your tongue hanging out. Like I got nothing else, and you're desperate for the business.
Yes.
You need to have that conversation, and you have to be willing to let them go.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that have driven far distances, like Toronto, showing these people Guelph, and then they say no, and they're very difficult. Where's your mountain where you say, well, I'm just going to ride this to the end because I got so much invested,
Yeah.
or do I just cut bait?
Yeah. Can I ask you a slightly unrelated question, but just given your experience, I'm curious to hear your perspective on this because I've talked to a few agents where they're doing well in the business. And like you mentioned, like the whole January reset question, right? Like they've done really well last year, and then they encounter a seasonal slowness, right? It's like they know it's going to get busy again for them, not for the overall market, but for them, they know they're going to get busy. But there's this emotional anxiety that comes from, it's like when you're busy, you're running around with your head chopped off. But when it slows down, it's hard for them to just rest during that time
Yeah.
because they almost go into the reverse where it's like, hey, why is it slow? Like this is it's almost like it's too slow. I need to try to find a way to do something even when there's not much to be done.
Yeah.
Right? When like if you think about the typical salaried person, when it's slow, they relax, they rest, they recharge, and then when it's busy, they kind of go all out, get it done, right? I'm talking about like a higher performing salaried person where they don't have to worry about the fluctuations, at least from the income side of things, right?
Yeah, they're getting paid every 2 weeks, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough. So is it do you think it's the financial part is the reason for that anxiety, or like I guess do you notice that either in yourself, or is that something that you've seen as common where both the business goes up and down but also people's emotions go go with that?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, yes. I mean, I think even the top of my mind too is, I mean, I think money is the main factor. You have to provide, you have bills, you have a mortgage, and I think that's the one of the desperation things that we need to do. And like I said before, we could, try to diversify a little bit. Maybe pick up some open houses from a realtor. Do a couple more leases that people don't have any time for. You need to pay the bills. But yeah, this is something in coaching I was saying. It's just like, there's a business side of it, but there's also a mental side of this, and you need to kind of say, okay, well, listen, what are your stats over the year? If you just keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to probably make, like if you're making 200 on a steady business year by year, well, one year you might get 230, next year you might get 170. But, and I've always been a slow starter, right? For whatever reason, like I need to understand the concept, and then I go. Once I understand it, boom, I go. But maybe but you can have a great December, and somebody might have a crappy December, right? You don't know when your people are coming around. But that whole anxiety thing about it, and listen, you need to stay at it. You got to keep at it. No sense in sleeping until 11 o'clock. Get on your CRM, get on your computer, touch base with people. Like you got to stay in that same frame of mind. And the longer, like, listen, for me, it's been 20 years, and every year, my wife says I have a little minor meltdown, right? You know what I mean? It is. We always want, and I was at a little conference yesterday in Mississauga, and I had a friend from Woodstock, and the last 30 months have been very challenging.
Wow.
They've been very challenging, especially for sellers. A lot of people, a lot of clients that I've done 9, 10 transactions over the last 15 years with, they've never seen this before, and
Yeah.
they want to make moves, but this has got to sell for the dominoes to happen to get you
Yes.
where you want.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's honestly it's been challenging. There's been some, some harsh discussions. There's been some temper tantrums. There's been some accusations, and I probably have lost some clients over the last couple years because listen, when the market's great, everything's great. But when it's challenging, oh, Larry, all of a sudden they start looking at the remarks and, well, you kind of misspelled that word. I don't think that's the reason why your house isn't selling,
Yes.
or the
Yeah.
fact that you can see the cat's tail in the corner of the couch over there. Then they start to get picky. When there's that one time, like right now, because it's not taking 7 days to sell a house. It could be taking 8, 12, 13 weeks to sell a
Yeah.
house, right? And then there's that time, and I'm just waiting for it, where they're thinking, and the last one's the price change, but then they get picky. They go, well, can we change that picture around? Can we add this? Just change the remarks around? Can we do a video or something like that? Then they start to be their own boss, because then they start to, and it's something in real estate, then they start to take control of you, right? One thing in real estate is, you have to kind of like take control of your client, right? Listen, but in a market like this, after 2 months on the market, I'm like, what do you want? I'll do it. You want me to change the remark? Sure. It's probably not gonna help, but whatever you want, I will do. So it is. This market has been challenging for some because the buyers aren't out there. They're just not out there.
Yeah, so let's dive deeper into this topic, right? So it's been probably 3 years since, I guess, 2022 was kind of the peak, right? Spring of 22.
Yep.
I remember summer of that year was already quite slow. The following spring, there was like a small hope things were going to recover, and it was by the following summer, it was kind of lower than the first summer.
Yep.
The next year, I think we had Trump put out, like, again, early spring, people were hopeful. We had the tariff announcement, and then it kind of really squashed it. And even this year, there was a lot of optimism going into the spring, and then sort of the Iran war and sort of now interest rates going up slightly. I guess it's too early to tell right now, but it feels like it doesn't seem like the toughness is going away, right? There isn't that, at least from my perspective, I don't see a clear turning point where it's like, okay, optimism is going to come back. Okay, prices are going to start increasing even slightly so that people are now a little bit more motivated to make transactions, or even more confident that their current home is going to sell to be able to purchase the next, so that things start to move a little bit more, right? But yeah, tell me, what are you seeing right now in terms of your current assessment of the market? And how does that translate to someone who's currently either listed with you, trying to list shortly, or wanting to make a move?
Well, I got some listings on the horizon. I mean, today's -4 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, listen, let's just wait. I'm on some chat groups, Clubhouse, and they're trying to push all their listings till after Easter. We're just trying to get those wheels to turn. I do see more listings coming out. I know a lot of people hibernated because they knew selling in February wasn't going to do it. So I'm seeing a lot more listings on my hot sheet coming out now, which is good. I don't know if the buyer pool is there, but I do see more buyers coming up on the market. It's not a lot more transactions, but it is a little bit more because, I mean, listen, you hate to have the story, and you always mention to the people you're like the market, but listen, we had 2 or 3 good snowstorms, right? I mean, listen, I don't even want to go outside, right? You can, like, the buyers aren't going to go outside, but navigating this market, it's just, you need as a seller and as a selling agent, you have to entertain, at least you have to be more open to entertain an offer that if you're going to buy my house or an offer is coming in, they may have a condition of selling their house. And that's a whole basket, that, some people see that, an agent sees that your house is sold, but it's conditionally sold on sale of property. Another buyer is going to come in there and just, it's going to turn him off a little bit, because as soon as they come in with an offer, the other one's going to firm up and you just wasted your time, right? Um, it's listen, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie to you there. It's been more days on market. Like back then in 21 and 20, early 22. If you didn't have a showing within like 2 days, then you thought something was wrong,
Yes.
right? Now you might not get a showing for like 7 days, and you're on the market longer, days on market. And you got to hit the price. Ultimately, it comes down to price, and that's the last one, and that's the last thing that they want to touch.
Yeah. Now, are you seeing a little bit more willingness to discuss price when the person is also buying? Like, do they have it in their mind that at least I'm letting my home go for a good deal, but I may be able to purchase a home for a good deal? Is that part of the conversation or the equation?
Absolutely, yeah. I use the word. It's all relative. Like, like I'll tell you, I just sold a townhouse for under six, which we thought we were going to get a six for.
Okay.
But they bought in the mid eights. So then I'm thinking to myself, well, like, sell low, buy low. You know what I mean? It's all relative. So what would you rather do? Would you rather sold your house for like six and then bought that house for 950
Yeah.
when the market was great? Like, there's a lot of pride in selling. Nobody knows what you bought for because people keep that quiet. But
Sure.
but everybody knows what you sell for.
Sure.
And then if your neighbor Jimmy, who sold for 700, sees you selling for 640, then he starts laughing at you, right? But he doesn't know that Jimmy bought a house for 1.1 and you bought for 950.
Yes.
So you got to convince them. It's all buy low, sell low. And this is a great market too. That you can only tell buyers so much, and then they start sending you bad messages on Facebook and TikTok and things like that. But interest rates are 2.25. You know that. I mean, the bank, the bank is, but
Central bank rate. Yeah.
central bank, yeah. But you could maybe squeeze something in the high 3%, which is fine. Even 4.10 or 4.25. But the prices is not. I find that prices in this market, price beats interest rate because
Yes.
you're going to pay a higher interest rate, yes, but your mortgage is less, right? So there's a mortgage conversation. There's a relative price conversation, and then there's the other way. If you're confident that you're going to be mildly or aggressive on the sale of your house, you don't need to put that condition of sale of property. You could do an alternate thing: is put an offer in, get a 90 or 120-day closing date, and that gives you time to sell your place. It's a risk. Listen, it's a risk. A lot of people have no risk management. Like, they don't like that at all. They would rather. What I push is a plan B. What's your plan B? Like, if you're out of a house, can you go to mom? Can you Airbnb? Can you rent? I love plan Bs because we can get rid of their house and they don't need to settle on another house.
Yes.
And that could be an issue. You're moving twice. Sometimes you have a dog. Sometimes you have no family around. So listen,
Well,
there's a lot.
in this market, I feel like that sounds like a safer option because one of the clients that we worked with, they ended up purchasing their next home, and their hope, like they did that, they got the longer closing. Their hope was to sell the current home. Now, I don't know the full details on this, if they were trying to get a price that was more aggressive than what it needed to be. I think they did a fair number of price reductions. It didn't feel like they were being overly aggressive. But yeah, now they're in a situation where they're holding both properties for a couple of months now, and that becomes a tough. Like, they were fortunate that they could close on the purchase, but now it's becoming a bit of a tough go. So I would take your suggestion over that situation, right? Like, sell the home first, rent an Airbnb for a couple of months, put your stuff in storage, get the home that you want, and at least you know exactly the numbers you're working with, right, from that sale.
But it seems, and I had a conversation with someone the other day. He goes, "Oh yeah, Larry, I would definitely do that." But sometimes you have two dogs.
Well, in my case, I have two kids. I'm like,
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not. And then do you settle and things like that? Some people like to go from A to B, and then you can discuss bridge.
yes, bridge financing, yeah.
Is,
So the challenge with their situation was that you couldn't apply for a lending bridge financing until your current home was sold. So if they had sold their home and then just the closing dates didn't line up, they could get bridge financing, close on the next one. We were trying to do that, but it just didn't sell. So we had to then refinance their current home to pull the equity for the down payment
Yeah,
to be able to sort of
for sure.
get them the purchase. But that was the
It's
tough part.
it's funny because you have I have older clients and things like that, and I know you can create a line of credit on their
Yes.
house,
Yeah.
which is mortgage free, but
Yes.
you obviously need two mortgages to bridge, and the baby boomers don't have a mortgage, and then they can't bridge, and now you're trying to tell them that, okay, that means you got to buy and close on the same day, right? But I have had it in the past because their income is less. How much are they going to get approved for? Maybe you give them
Yes.
$100,000 line of credit. At least it's a charge, right? So, listen, there's plenty of things there. Money is the top one. How are you guys going to do this, and what's your plan B? That's actually a mortgage, bridge, and moving. Those are big ones because everybody thinks, oh yeah, price is the best thing on the offer. No. Closing date. What are your conditions? There's other things in there. And I made a note here. People just don't understand. They probably don't. I don't understand your business totally. I'm getting more and more into it. But not that I don't want to know your business, but I don't want to know your
It's
business,
the amount of details.
especially now.
Like every lender has their own policies. Some lenders will allow this exception, others won't, and it's a maze, honestly. Like
Yeah,
once,
it is.
um, and it's not always useful, right? Because sometimes you learn all these details, and it's like it will help the one client in that one situation, and then you may never use it for another year,
That's
just
right.
because it's so specific, right? So, I even in my line of work, I rely a lot on the expertise of the each lender has like a representative, like a salesperson essentially for that lender,
Yeah, yeah.
who usually, like the ones I deal with, are very knowledgeable about that lender's products. So usually anytime I have a tough file, I'm making a couple of phone calls, and usually one of them has the answer from the thousands of files they've been dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to just keep everything in here,
Well, the
right?
thing is that how often, like I would be my worst client because I've been in my house for like 23 years,
Mm,
right? So, but the thing is, and I understand the business, but like people don't understand real estate. They're what do we do here? And that's part of us educating them. I just
mm,
did one with like selling a condo townhouse, and they didn't know what a special assessment was. They didn't know
mm,
they didn't know what a status certificate was because when they bought 15 years ago, it was just things were flying so bad. They ordered this, they sent it to the lawyer. They probably didn't even see the status certificate,
mm.
right? So listen, there's a lot of educating that we have to do, and there's a lot of things, a lot of forms that I have here that I tell in my coaching business that listen, get these things on hand, and then you have to make your system so when you leave, someone can come in here and read this, and when you get a deal, this is what you got to submit into the brokerage. This is what you do every day. Your CRM, you have your daily call list, right? And I mean, we're personal, but we need things to be automated because it's it's too much for our memory bank.
Yes. Well, even what you mentioned about consistency, I find that like it's much easier to be consistent when you have a process that you follow versus when you're trying to push yourself to remember and to do things every single day, right? When it's here's my, like when I come to the office, these are the five things I do. These are the five things I need to get done each day, right? Whatever those tasks are that move the
Yep.
business forward, right? Um, Going back to the topic of helping sellers in this market, so it is challenging. Pricing is a big topic. What else are you seeing? What are you seeing that's working? So if a seller's working with you and they're not happy about sort of the pricing and everything, but like the deals that come together, is there any common elements you find that the seller brings to the table that helps the transaction to move forward? If there was any, what would those be?
I think if they, I'll go back to when things were really, well, good or bad, depending if you're a buyer or a seller back in 21 and early 22. I would take buyers out and then they would like it, put offer in, 10 offers, They had both conditions of financing and home inspection. And then they would talk to their mortgage guy and say, okay, how much, you're good. So they would drop it. I think they need to educate themselves, and I think it's a bit of a slow burn for like some of them. But one of the ones that I just sold, we thought we were going to get something in the sixes, but the market told you were a five. The market needs to educate you because you were wrong. Even though I told you, I said I don't think there's a six in this figure. They need to see it. I think they just they got to get it out of their system.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I like to give ranges. Like when I price, because I'm like, oh yeah, your house will sell for like 748. I go, your house is a mid seven, 735 to 760 depending, right? So that's one of those things. I like to let them figure it out. They need to learn. It all depends how much time they got, but sometimes you just have to let them play it out, right? And sometimes it's when you're buying and you're losing, then you kind of straighten out your offer. It's just listen, let's just take a quick look. Let's have a good look at this house, so we don't need to do a home inspection, right? And as for sellers, they just and sometimes they go, well, maybe we should paint the cabinets. Well, yeah, just clean up that thing. Maybe clean up the cat litter, and then feedback. Oh my gosh, feedback is ever since COVID, feedback's been an option for other realtors to do, because back then it was just like it's a yes or a no. If I don't come with an offer, I don't like it. But when times are tough, sellers want this feedback. What is wrong? And I just put out a video. I go, guys, it isn't you. If your house shows well, it's just there's nothing you can do. At the end, it's price, but it's not the remarks, it's not the photos, it's not the feature sheet. It's just it's your location. It's the fact you don't have a garage. It's the fact that you're a condo, right? It's just it is what it is, and they need to understand that.
Yeah, because I think ultimately the demand for housing as a shelter has not gone away, right? Clearly, like nothing has changed in terms of us not having enough homes for the people who are here, right? The housing shortage, that hasn't gone away. It's more a function of can the people afford to own the home, and the prices that people are paying no longer include this expectation that prices are going up the next year, right? So people are willing to pay more if they feel like, oh, I'm paying more today, but I'm going to get a gain next year, so it's worth it to pay more today. Versus now people are being very realistic about, I need to get a good deal because it may go down next year as well. So I need to make sure, is this home really for me? Can I afford it? And can I buy without the expectation of any near-term price gains, right?
Yeah. Well, somebody came up to me 6 months ago and goes, Larry, I don't understand something. I don't understand if there's a housing shortage and there's so many houses for sale. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a good point. And it's like you said, it's buyer affordability.
Yes.
You could have, two young teachers that still need mom or dad to co-sign.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
no, we see that often. Like it's surprising. Like even, so I'm in Welland, right? So I'm in the Niagara region, and we work with a lot of buyers out here where it is a little bit more affordable than Hamilton, but still, right? Like to get into a home that's in the 400,000 range, and there's actually opportunities out here that are not like in the slums. There's like, a starter home, right? That people can buy in the low 4 to mid 4s.
Yeah.
You're sometimes looking still at a household income of like 100,000 to make that work, especially if you put a lower down payment. Now that works if you're a couple making 40, 50 grand each, right? That kind of works. Yeah. But there's a lot of clients that we come across who are a single income household, which is a single person that wants to purchase a home. You need to be making 6 figures as a single person to be able to get into the market. Right?
You do. Yeah. And then because I had a couple clients saying, yeah, I could just go on as a guarantor. Well, there are no guarantors anymore. Mom or dad are going on the offer.
Yes.
Because so many people have slipped out the back door just being the guarantor, or when it renewed, the guarantor was left off for some reason, right? So no, mom and dad are going on the offer. And then you have to have that. conversation with them, because then now they get into this capital gains issue. But
Mm.
but the lawyers have circumvented that, where you're signing something where the parents are only on for like 1% or
Yes,
something like that.
that's
It's
right.
just
That's right.
so it won't affect the capital gains. So that, listen, we need to be multifaceted as an agent, because I had told them that right off the bat. So that's my mortgage knowledge, right? And then there's all different things. But listen, after like 20 years, there's a lot that I've seen. I mean, but the deals that don't close, and then you got to resell it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then are they going to sue the first buyer that backed away? You know?
I was on Facebook the other day and I saw something interesting. It was an insurance company selling home closing insurance, where they were saying if you have a firm sale, you can
Yeah.
buy our insurance so that if the buyer doesn't close, we're going to cover any losses that you take.
There you
I
go.
thought that was I thought that was interesting, but I've had some bad experiences. Not with this, but I had a rental property previously where I purchased like a rental guarantee insurance where it was a similar concept. If the tenant doesn't pay rent, we will pay their rent until you find the next tenant.
Right.
And that company did not pay us out, asked us not to contact the tenant for a couple of months while they were underwriting it. And then we're
Right.
like, so we shouldn't serve them notice so that they leave.
Yeah.
Like, you want us to wait? Anyways, it was a gong show, and I know several investors who got that same insurance, and that this company didn't pay anyone. They'd always find a loophole to say that it wasn't it.
I
So
remember.
again, I'm not trying to put that on this
No, no,
particular new
no, no.
insurance, but just you can't just eliminate risk by buying insurance. Like, it's not
Yes.
always.
I remember, I think 15 years ago, something came out where realtors can buy commission insurance
Oh, interesting.
if it doesn't close. So
Interesting.
I don't know if that had made its way through. I haven't heard it in a while, but yeah, it's and I know some realtors offer uh, in like insurance, that if you buy their house, if you work through them and buy their own listing, they'll give you a year free maintenance plan, that if your furnace does
Hmm.
die, then your
So
furnace.
we actually have a lender that does that. So one of our lenders, and they've been pretty good just as a regular lender, but one of the things that they offer is that the first 6 months of the mortgage, you get this plan for free, and after that you have to pay like $20 a month or something if you
Right.
want to keep it.
If you want to keep it.
But for that first 6 months, they will insure your appliances and your mechanicals. So your appliances like your stove, fridge, that kind of thing, but also like your heating system, your roof, so anyways, I've not yet had a client make a claim through that policy. So
Hmm.
I'll save my recommendation until I
Yeah.
have some real
Yeah.
like full cycle experiences. But I thought it was interesting, especially as a free benefit. Like, if you just have to like sign a piece of paper that says, I will be billed in 6 months, and I just need to call them shortly prior to cancel it, the risk seems much lower. And then if it works out, you save a few grand, right?
For sure. Well, I know. I mean, listen, because there's no surveys and things like that. I mean, buying title insurance has been pretty mandatory
Yes.
now
Yeah.
when you do a deal, and I find that a lot of people didn't know what you could claim through title insurance. They thought,
Mm.
oh, if this just protects my boundaries. But then years ago, the lawyer said, no, no, no. If there's trouble with the hot water tank rental, just put it through
Interesting.
land titles. Then a lot of people started pushing through land titles. Now I don't know the update, but I know land titles insurance has taken
Mm.
what they're covering a little bit less and less every year. So that's kind of a thing that I've learned over the years. Where I said, wow, you could put that dispute through land titles. They go, yeah, put it through. But then now they're like, oh, now they caught us. Now the insurance company takes
Mm.
kind of takes more off the list. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in this biz.
Yeah, no, there's definitely that is the one thing that's interesting. Like, I was talking to my underwriter the other day. Um, there isn't, at least I think last year, we maybe had one or two transactions that we would say was a smooth, easy transaction where nothing out of the ordinary happened.
Rarely
Um,
happens.
right? So like in our line of business, like there's usually something about their income that we need to like make a note, explain to the lender. There's like they switch jobs, or the down payment, they're getting it from like some source. We need to explain how that makes sense. And like, there's always these, everything, there's never just a cookie cutter, everything's good. You just, and that's part of maybe the business, right? That's
Yeah.
part of like just people's lives are all different, right?
I think I've had two of those in like 20 years. There's always something. And sometimes, listen, there's a lot of play here. There's a lot of people in play. Like the mortgage guy could be a real doorknob, right? Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's your underwriter.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mortgage insurer that doesn't like that condo building.
Yes.
You know,
that definitely happens. That definitely happens.
It could be the inspector that scared the crap out of him. It could be the lawyer that said, that reserve fund doesn't look too good to me. Meanwhile, it's like maybe $250,000, but he's just having a bad day, you know?
I've seen a condo building in Mississauga that I used to own a couple of rental units in, where the building had fraud, and CMHC had a few owners default, right, and sell their units at a loss. They took a loss on that building, and they essentially blacklisted that building. So then afterwards, when I was purchasing a unit, I was asking, hey, can I put less than 20% down? And I was told, you as a borrower, CMHC is very happy with you. However, this particular building, no way. Even if the lender is okay with it, we are not okay with it. So for a period of time, I don't think anyone was able to buy in that building with less than 20% down.
Yeah.
But then as time passes, these things also change, because then a few years later, I think the building had repaired itself to a certain degree. And then CMHC re-looked at it, and they were willing to lend like after a couple of years. So never fully set in stone.
Oh, it happens. It's the Grand Olympia. It's a condo in Hamilton. They put, I don't know, they got a $2.5-3 million loan, and they did great renovations. But some banks, some insurance, like, some lawyers might say that's too big of a loan. That's a black flag there, right? Sometimes there's a slip and fall, and someone's suing the corporation, the condo corp. And
usually there's a few. Every certificate we see, there's like three ongoing lawsuits usually.
I mean, it doesn't, and sometimes, the lawyer could pitch it the wrong way, and it scares your people. But
yes,
it's one of those things where, and I tell people, especially with home inspections, and the younger kids, it's just like, Larry, what if the home inspection fails? No, home inspection doesn't fail. Like, home inspection is supposed to give you clarity, and then you make the decision whether you're willing to take on the minor or major issues that are going on in here. So I listen, I always tell my people, just budget $5,000 for your first year.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you don't have to use it. But, and then, the old Instagram memes of, bringing your father to a home inspection. It's like, oh my God. So they're like this, or like, what is that? And are they going to fix it? I go, just get an electrician in here for 2 hours and it's all fixed. And then they go, well, because they don't know our business, they go, well, are the sellers going to fix that? Well, no, it's kind of minor. Okay, they're double tapping a wire in a breaker box, right? Don't worry about it. You can fix that. That's minor. We're not going after $400 for that, right? I mean, in this market, there is more double negotiations right now, but for the most part, just if it scares you, then walk away. But,
well, I think that is maybe a good point to bring up, which is something that I was having a conversation the other day where this realtor was telling me, generally at home inspections, what you see is what you get. If you saw the issue in the home at the time you walk through, you can't then come back at the inspection and say, hey, we noticed, the seal in the windows are gone. Like, you saw that when you walk through the home. It's pretty visible without any special equipment or anything like that.
That was handled at negotiations.
Exactly. Except that now he's finding he and his sellers are forced to make concessions because they don't necessarily want to lose the buyer either.
That's the market.
Yeah, so they're like, even though in any other market we would not be giving whatever rebate or whatever discount, we don't want to lose the buyer, and we'll take another small haircut to just make the deal go through, right?
Well, look back when things were going very, very well back in 21 and early 22. These furnace and air conditioning people would go in there and they would finance it.
Yeah.
Instead of buying it, it would be on the it would be on title. which is a whole different game because now you can take it off title, and now searching for those stuff can be a little hard. But when things are going good and there's a $7,000 left on the AC and the furnace, back time, yeah, no problem. We'll take that. It's good. We need the help.
We'll take the rental, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's like you're paying. You're paying it. I don't.
And some of those companies charge a lot to pay it out. Right?
Oh my God. I mean, they charge a lot to put it in.
Yeah.
Like you can get a furnace and AC, I don't know, maybe for $6-7 grand, and sometimes there's like 12-15 grand written on your title, on your abstract. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, for the early payouts, I've seen it exactly those numbers where it's almost like double to pay it out early. And it's like, wait a second, this is like for the convenience of a monthly payment instead of paying up front, they're charging you double for the same thing.
That's right. I mean, in Ontario, the natural process is when you buy a home, the air conditioner and the furnace are paid for.
Should be owned.
They're owned.
Yeah.
But we are willing to accept the hot water tank.
That's right.
I know a couple buyers. I have to kind of explain that to them.
Yeah.
And then what is left? Is there $2,000 left? Well, listen, just pay it for a year. It is the old Western Canadian mentality where the hot water tank, it's just not worth it. Like it's just buy it out because you're paying now. Now they're getting up to maybe, I don't know, maybe $33-40 a month.
Yeah, they really are.
And then if you forecast that to how many repairs you might need in 15 years, just buy that thing out. If you got to replace it, Home Depot and a plumber, $1,200, put it in and let's go. Right. So
yeah, like I have a rental right now that is this summer is going to approach its 10th year of the water heater rental, at which point, so I called the rental company. They're like, yeah, you can stop paying the rental fee at the 10-year mark because you've paid what you need to pay and you can buy it out at pretty much no cost, right? But you need to call us to stop billing you because if you don't call us, we will just keep billing you. And I'm like, can I put in the request now so that in 6 months you stop? No. You have to call us like a month or two before the end, and then we will stop. Yeah. I'm like, that is a terrible system. Like if you didn't know, you would just pay it for years after you needed to, right?
That's right. Oh, I know that. Yeah. Hot water tanks. If you're listening here, I would just call your Reliance or your Enercare person and say, what is my balance? And if it's like a couple $100 or $500,
exactly.
I would pay it out.
Yeah. And then you just save that monthly cost. And like 10 years is old, but sometimes if they're working, like they can keep going for a couple of, especially on a rental, like it needs to just work. It doesn't have to be the best hot water tank ever.
Listen, I just replaced my furnace in December and it was from 1999.
Yeah, exactly. They can really last, right? So it's kind of funny. There's two sides of the coin. Some things last, and other things, like the flooring in our home was replaced when we purchased it 5 years ago, and it's just ripping apart all over the place. We're like, is this how flooring is? Like, I don't think we're extra hard on our flooring. We just walk on it. Like we're not like doing anything crazy here, but it's just ripping apart at like 8 different places around the home. We're like, okay, that's something we need to budget for now.
No, and that's funny too. Coming off home inspections, you know the life of a roof, even though they're putting 50-year shingles on a roof. When was the roof done? I like to do roof, windows, AC, and furnace. Those are my top 4 money bucks ones when I do like a home inspection. Let's get the dates of those.
So I had like our roof this winter was really snowed in, right? There was something like a foot or 2 of snow on it. So I called I texted my roofer a little photo of it. There was like an overhang of ice. I was like, is this okay? It's like, nope, you need to get it off. Otherwise it's going to ice dam once it starts to melt. So he came, he kind of shoveled all of it off the roof, which was great. And then I was talking to him, my roof, I think it's getting to that 15-year mark. Like, how did it look up there? It's like, yeah, there was like few spots, shingles were sort of missing, but like overall, it still looks okay. And we were just talking about like, what does a new roof look like? And they're like, yeah, nowadays the roofs come with like, they call it 50-year roofs, right? Yeah. And their warranty lasts for the 50 years, except for wind damage. Yeah. And wind is the main cause of the shingles flying off, which causes leaks, which causes people to replace the roof.
Yeah.
So it's like it's covered by everything except the main thing. So,
So how did you have to put something on there? How are you going to get rid of that ice damming?
so it wasn't ice damming yet, but there was literally like almost 1.5 foot of snow, like from the top all the way to the bottom, and it kind of froze. So there was like a overhang, right, overhanging
So how can you stop that?
So basically, he went with a shovel onto the roof, and he just shoveled all the snow off the roof.
But my point is, how do you not get him up there next year?
I mean, we didn't have this for the last 5 years. It was
Okay.
just this year where the snow was
January.
so heavy, right? I think it's, and like you can see on the entire street, all the homes on one side, I think the west facing side for whatever reason,
Yeah.
all have that overhang, and on the other side there's no overhang. So like just the way the wind pushed it. But yeah, no, we've not had it since. I think this year we just got a lot of snow. So I think
We did. January is rough.
yeah, I'm still so grateful for the high school kid who lives on my street who knocked on my door asking if he could shovel. And I got his phone number, and I'm like, every time it snows, I'm paying you $20. Come out here. I think I had him out like 10 or 15 times this winter to just clean it out. 2 days later, clean it out. Just get it done. It's been great.
That's good. That's good.
All right, this has been awesome, Larry. The one last question we like to ask all our guests. This is more, I would say, on the personal side of things. If there was one message you wanted to share with this audience, with maybe someone you care about deeply who may be listening to this episode, based on your life experience, through the ups and downs, through the different challenges you've had to go, if there was one life lesson you could share, what would that one thing be?
Make sure your wife has medical insurance. No. One lifelong lesson. Honestly, I think, listen, if you're going to be out of the salaried game, if you're going to be a commission salesperson, you have to have, it's like buying a house without selling your house. You have to have some risk management here.
Yeah.
You have to have a stomach. You have to have a stomach for buying a rental property, right? You can go with the $100,000 job, or you can go with the potential $150,000 to $250,000 job. But you're going to have some risk management. You're going to have some gut pains. You're going to have the roller coaster stuff. And listen, if you can hack it, whatever you did before real estate, that's fine. Or if you're a 20-year-old getting into real estate, you have to learn, you have to mentor. I did it with my dad, and then I'll just get into the coaching one later. But it's you have to learn your craft. You have to be consistent on this, right? And like I was telling people at my kids' school when they were thinking, like, you're not gonna use math or calculus in your life, but the fact of what you're learning is how you're applying yourself to study, right? What do you do at home, right? How do you apply yourself? And then you got to get into that. You hate to say this routine word, but you do need it. You need to go here. You need to block some time off, and then you can party later, right? So what I do in my coaching program is, I just started. I had like a lot of people came into my office, and then I signed up with a coach to get a program developed, because I'm thinking, like, okay, I can kind of manufacture this. I mostly help people that are, struggling to maybe hit the $100,000 level. Maybe they're making 40, 50, 60. I'm not going to get you to, the high roller $1 million in commissions, but I need you to get to a point where, as you mentioned, you're not second guessing that you're in this business. You're going to get at least a consistent $100,000. What to do to get that? Just some of the basics. If you're new, I'll still coach you when you're new, right? But I think I have an assessment that I start off with everybody. It's about a 10-minute thing here, and what this assessment does from the back end, it tells me where you need work. You need work in social media. Do you need work in like daily activities? Where's your good and where's your bad, right? And I do like I charge $4.99 for a month, and I script that in terms of like, okay, you need to call every week, you need to call every 2 weeks, then we have a Zoom, you know what I mean? So and then like there's check-ins and things like that, and I got to be your pain in the ass for a little. This is
Well, listen, I highly in my life, I've found that coaching has been some of the best dollars that I've spent. Right? I joke that I didn't go to university. I was accepted to one, and to my parents' dismay, I chose not to go because I didn't want to take out OSAP loans. That was my explanation. And then I went off and bought rental properties and got like 10 times the amount of debt in terms of rental mortgages. But along the way, the biggest impact in my career have been coaches, and I've at this point spent more than what I would have spent on a university degree just working with these different coaches along the way. And to this day, I have a mortgage coach as well who's been instrumental. Like even this podcast was something that he suggested to me. He's like, "Hey, do you think this would be a fit for you?" Right? And there's been many of these. It's hard to explain because sometimes the coaching shows up as a conversation, and you're like, you're charging that much for a conversation. Yes, but after the conversation, you could have spent the next 10 years doing things one way. And because of this conversation, you're now doing things just a little bit better, a little bit more focused, a little bit more on point, and then your results are way better. So like it's something that, yeah, I highly I'm a fan. I think I I will say I have done a little bit of coaching myself. It is not the easiest thing to do because you have to really be there for people and really like, I think maybe as a temperament thing, I don't know if I'm necessarily the best suited for it. I enjoyed it, but it's a tougher thing I think for me. But I commend you for making that part of your work, right? You already have your thriving business that is probably taking up a lot of your time and energy, and to set aside time to coach and mentor and to sort of give back in a way, right? To help other agents to learn from some of the lessons that you've learned. I think it's something commendable.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it's been like you said, it's not easy. Sometimes I've had a client just call me out of the blue because he was having, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown, but just having a bit of a a
Yeah.
non-real estate, just needed someone to chat with, almost like a therapist. We talk about the psychology of these, and he just needed to be, not that he was on the ledge, but he just needed to be talked off the ledge,
Mm,
so to speak. And yeah, that was fine. I'd say, yeah, buddy, what do you need? I wasn't doing anything at the time, and 20 minutes later, and then everything was fine.
yeah.
So
Yeah, sometimes like having it like even therapy is something interesting, right? Because I've heard people talk about like the value of a therapist comes from, hopefully they're good, right? I think
yeah,
that is one part of it. But even if they're not the best therapist, but just the fact you have someone outside of yourself who can just listen to your challenges, help you think things through, and you may already know the answer, but it's hard to get there by yourself, right?
yeah,
Sometimes it's hard to like have clarity just by thinking about it versus having a third party, especially one who understands your situation, understands your life and that decision you're trying to make and like that circumstance you're trying to navigate. And just to be able to prompt you, hey, but didn't you say this, 2 weeks ago that this was important to you? And like, doesn't that still apply in this decision or in this moment that you're talking about today? And it's,
sometimes they just need to hear themselves say it, or
yes.
just as they said, just to get it off their chest.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think I wish more of our education system becomes coordinated with sort of the coaching world. Because like even now I have two young kids. We're contributing to RESPs, which is an interesting experience because I didn't go to university, but it's like I we're in a place financially where we can. So like it's probably a prudent thing to do to set them up for their future. But I wish in the future they have the choice of like, hey, we have this money saved up. Do we go the traditional route, go to university, or if we decide to start a business, like that money is probably much better spent working with coaches in that industry, in that thing that they're trying to do really well, right? So
I know.
we'll see if that happens, but that's my hope at least.
I know. That's good. That's good.
Larry, it's been a pleasure, and we'll make sure to link in the show notes, your contact details as well as where people can reach you both for your coaching or for if they decide they have a real estate question for you.
Good stuff. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.